So today I'm going to show you the descriptive name trap, why names like this are weak, why names like this are refused, and why it's going to cost you way more than just years. It's going to cost you time and money. It's noisy out here today, and it's going to get noisier and windier, and we're going to do this anyway. This park is the land that Lucia Costa set aside on his napkin sketch and that the government refuses to sell to developers because the public needs space to, well, breathe, relax, hang out. Trademark law works on the exact same principle. We won't sell specific brands. Whoa, buddy. I didn't do shit to you. I didn't do it. And if this audio is already bothering you, let me save you a moment. Just go take the trademark quiz in the description below. It's gonna tell you whether your brand name is already in the descriptive trap. You can read your results in peace with no geese, no wind, no rain, and all the other things that I hope don't show up in this episode. For the brave ones that are staying, welcome to Parque Cidade. This is Brasília's big urban park. Think of it like Central Park in New York City, except it was always meant to be here. Brasília was always designed, unlike New York, with this green heart in the center of it for everyone. No fences, not one in sight, not even to get into the park. No private ownership, because some names are built to be owned, and some, by design, actually are supposed to belong to, well, everyone. Last episode, I talked about some hints of when it's really time for you to file and when to wait. So the question isn't whether you love your name, it's whether your name was ever yours to actually own or whether you've been building on, well, public property. Today, we're going to be talking about whether your name is unique enough to be trademarkable according to the US Patent and Trademark Office. Because there's one trap that catches more first-generation founders than anything else I see. And unfortunately, it's got nothing to do with timing or money. It's the name itself. Because when your business coach or your mentor tells you to go pick a name that's clear, because you want people to know exactly what it is you do. But in the legal world, if your name is too clear, it's a label, not a brand that's worth protecting by the government and the US Patent and Trademark Office. And the government will refuse to let you put a private fence around it, effectively keeping it public property. Today, I'm going to show you the descriptive trap, which is the #1 reason that I see that businesses fail to ever own their identity before they even launch, and why this trap can cost you years of growth. We're gonna look at the most common naming mistake that I see, because the name that feels the safest and the most search-friendly and that your coach wants you to use because your clients understand what you're selling, unfortunately, is often the one that's the hardest to own. If you're joining the Brand Blueprint series midway through and we haven't officially met yet, hi, I'm Samantha Bradshaw, trademark lawyer, small business owner, and the founder of Inline Legal. More importantly, I am a business owner just like you. I have spent my career helping entrepreneurs and founders from Lebanon to Brazil and the US and everywhere in between move from renting a domain and having an idea to owning a scalable empire that brings their family wealth for generations. Currently, I'm in Brasília because this city was built with more intention than most other places in the world. And if you want a business that lasts as long as these cities, don't look at your competitors. Look at the blueprints of World Heritage sites, like this one. Now, let's get to work. So, this is Parque de Cidade. It is wide open. It's designed for everybody in this city. In trademark law, descriptive words are exactly like this park. Frankly, even the name of the park is descriptive. It literally translates to the city park. It's not very inventive, but the USPTO operates with an anti-monopoly principle. No one is allowed to own a word that other people selling the same thing need to describe what it is that they're selling. No, go. It's bamboo. Thank you. So they refuse to let one company build that private fence because why does anybody get to privatize this space? They don't. Trademark law does the exact same thing. This belongs to both the public and your competitors, as much as that sucks to hear. You can't lock down the word studio for you. You're not the only studio. You can't lock down bakery for you, or coaching, or courses. Those words have to be available to everyone. Or, let's get a little more specific. In this park, you can go get coconuts. All of them have their own little shops, but no one of these coconut shops would be allowed to own the word coconut, or cold coconut, or open coconut, or coconut water, because they're all selling those things. They're also not allowed to own anything that describes the coconut water. The fresh shape, cold, iced, gelado. These things have to remain open to every coconut vendor here. The concept is that a trademark is supposed to identify a source of something, where something came from. What on earth does that mean? It means there are a million places you can buy shoes, but you know you want to buy shoes from Nike, from Adidas, and you know those are different quality shoes. It is not supposed to be just what describes a thing. The business name, the brand name, it's supposed to act like a label for the thing it is that you're selling. And if you don't do that, you're going to get a refusal from the US Patent and Trademark Office when you apply for the trademark. This is a section 2EF blah. What does that mean? It means it's a descriptiveness refusal because we're not allowed to have descriptive names. Once you get that, you will have already spent the non-refundable fees to apply for the trademark. You will have already waited 6 months to get an examiner to tell you that. And then frankly, there's not a lot you can do unless you have all the time and money to argue with them and convince them that it's not actually descriptive. What are you doing? Guys, these geese are insane. That's really weird, man. So anyway, back to this. If you come up with a descriptive name like the coconuts over here, if I start saying that they're cold coconuts and I apply for that trademark with the US Patent and Trademark Office, it's going to get rejected. It doesn't identify you as the source, as the person selling those coconuts, right? It's a common attribute, it's a common descriptor. Yeah, that geese is crazy. He's coming right here. Trying to own a descriptive name can really put you in legal purgatory. Sometimes these marks can become protected, but you have to go through the ordeal of proving, well, a couple things. One, and the primary thing being, you have to prove acquired distinctiveness. Again, legal speak, what does that mean in normal person terminology? It means that you have to show that you've been using this name for years. Minimum 5, they prefer certainly more than that, but they won't even talk to you if it's less than 5. You have to show how much money you've spent on marketing, that you've put out ads in the digital space and the physical space, that you're spending money getting this brand name out there. If you can't show those two things, a descriptive name will never become protected. Here's an example, great example, actually. Seattle's Best Coffee is all over the United States now. It started out as a single coffee shop in, well, Seattle, and they thought they were the best coffee in Seattle. All of those things are highly descriptive of their brand name. So for a long time, they could not get a trademark until they showed that they had expanded, that they had spent money on the marketing and branding, and that they had been around for long enough for people to start thinking that Seattle's Best Coffee was not a description for any other coffee shop in Seattle, but specifically that coffee shop. So quick self-check before you fall in love with a name and, I don't know, you're not ready to get divorced from it. 2 questions I need you to ask yourself. 1, would my competitors need these words in my brand name to describe their own stuff? 2, does this name tell people more about what it is that I'm selling to my customers, my clients, my people, than who is selling it to them? If the answer to either of those is yes, your name might be sitting in the public park and it might be cold, like this coconut, and you don't get to own it. It's descriptive. Those names are super easy to understand, but generally really hard to own. So you have a descriptive name. You're building on public property, but there is a small workaround. I'm still in the park, and this place did not start as a Brasília landmark. It started with a huge gamble. There was a man named Antonio Hilario de Souza, we're just gonna call him Mr. Nico. He used to work at the famous Casino do Urca in Rio back in the 40s. Unfortunately for him, in 1946, the president signed a decree banning gambling in Brazil, and the casino that he worked at shut down pretty much overnight. Mr. Nico was now out of a job and owed a lot of money from the casino for the work that he had done already. But the casino didn't have any money because they couldn't operate. So they paid him with what they had, a Ferris wheel. Weird? Yeah, but he did what any good business owner in the making does. He turned his small Ferris wheel, not the one behind me, this is a different one, into a full business. He took that Ferris wheel, got another game, and drove around the state that surrounds Brasília, bouncing from parking lot and city to city before he eventually settled in Brasília, still bouncing from parking lot to parking lot like a traveling fair. 2 rides, no permanent address, no home, no, fence that he could build around his own property to control who was coming in and out. This is the parking lot phase, and a lot of brands kind of exist in it. I'm gonna do a deep dive on how to get out of the parking lot phase into fully being able to build a fence around it. In legal terms, we call that the Supplemental Register, this in-between bit. For now, here's the main thing that you need to know. Sometimes, when you bounce around from parking lot to parking lot enough, the city will invite you to build up in a public space. Just like the folks at the US Patent and Trademark Office, if they're feeling nice, will sometimes give you kind of a temporary license to operate in that public space. That is when they say why you can put your brand on the Supplemental Register. That gives you the permit to operate and gives you the right to use that little R in the circle symbol. And it stops others from jumping on your name. But you don't own the dirt quite yet, and you can't exactly put up a very tall fence to keep other people out. You don't get the legal presumption of validity. I talked a bit about that in episode 2. We're going to talk about more about that in a future episode as well. And you can see that one here. But that's what makes such a difference. In 1978, the government invited Mr. Nico to set up right here behind me to get out of the parking lots. At the time, this park was kind of deserted. It was fairly isolated. There weren't a lot of people here yet. It was a big risk to build here. But that's kind of every business, right? The reality was he was still building on public land. So how do we get from, hey, you can come hang out here, you can get a permit to operate, and we can put you on the Supplemental Register, to actually being able to build a 2-meter tall fence? How do you do that? Well, you stay. You keep building. You market this spot until Nicolandia becomes kind of synonymous with Brasília. In my world, in the legal world, we call that connection acquired distinctiveness. It means that you've used your descriptive name for at least 5 years, spent a bunch of money marketing it, and sitting on that Supplemental Register if the US Patent and Trademark Office was nice enough to offer it to you. And once you've marketed it so hard and sat there for so long, finally, the public sees this chunk of the public park as your landmark, your right, your dirt. And finally, once they see it as yours, then we get to go back to the US Patent and Trademark Office and say, we have the crowds, we are advertising, people are still coming here, we show them the history, and we apply again to move your trademark from that Supplemental Register of like, yeah, you can operate here, to the Principal Register, which is where everyone tries to go on the first try. That one that gives you the legal presumption of validity and all the other trademarked rights that you're missing sitting on the Supplemental Register. That doesn't mean that the Supplemental Register is worth nothing. It does mean that we've made a risky thing already even riskier and spent the money and time that to apply to the US Patent and Trademark Office for that twice. And maybe we didn't need to if we would have named a little differently from the start. That being said, that is how you can turn squatting into parking lots into a beloved generational landmark. It's possible. It just kind of sucks. The descriptive trap that we just left is the safest choice if you want to make sure that everybody knows what it is that you sell. So often though, that can wind up being riskier than something much crazier looking or sounding or any smelling even, because yes, we can trademark smells. It can be a waste of precious time at best, and at worst, somebody comes down and says you can't own it. So if you want to know if you're currently building on public land, you're currently building in the park, and you have no chance of the city inviting you to have a permit to operate there, or eventually giving you the land so you can open your own Nicolandia, then I want you to do one thing for me really quick. Go and take the trademark quiz. It's less than 15 minutes from the privacy of your home, and you'll know then if a trademark makes sense as an investment for your business, and if your brand is trademarkable without watching all of these videos. I promise the sound's gotten better since the park though. The quiz will flag your name before the US Patent and Trademark Office does. But the fun part is, in episode 5, we're going to the other end of the spectrum entirely. Something so ridiculous that I bet you cannot guess what this building is supposed to do. When a descriptive name says too much, a fanciful name says literally nothing at all. It means there's no recognition of what you sell when you first start, but everybody knows you once you build that power. It's invented, completely made up. Maximum protection, but zero built-in recognition. It could be your SEO's worst nightmare, though sometimes it does make things a lot easier. They don't have to compete for so much. It really just depends on who you ask. But the most iconic brands started there in something so ridiculous, so imaginative, that you would have never been able to dream it up unless you actively tried. Just like Oscar Niemeyer invented the curves of the city, and Anthos Bulkos invented the weird structure that you're looking at behind me. These can be some of the hardest names to market, the hardest things for people to understand what you're doing, but they're also quickly and easily some of the most iconic. And iconic is easy to protect. If you want to get the next episode in your inbox, the dispatch is below. We'll drop it as soon as it releases. Until then, I'll see you next time. Let's go build.